Here I am in Fulton County, not far from Atlanta. Behind me is the Antioch Methodist Church, established in 1836. As you can see on the sign here, we're in the cemetery and the church is over there. Now it's important to me, this little story, because those that gave the land and helped build the church, which kind of pioneered this territory, are direct descendants through my mother's line. My mother's grandmother was a Florence Kidd, and my mom's middle name is Florence. She took her name from her. And so this family, the John L. Kidd, had come from York, South Carolina, and come down here and pioneered with his sons. And Oliver Kidd, they had really established themselves. And by the 1830s, again, they had given the land and built the church, and a little community had risen up in this area. And here's a little a monument to them, Antioch Church Cemetery, land donated by John L. Kidd, O.C. Kidd, and L.L. Kidd, sons of John L. Kidd, both those two boys. It says, this memorial erected, let me get it right there, this memorial erected in memory of the pioneer settlers whose graves are here, originally marked only by native stones, 1836 to 1900, erected in 1968 by Oral Duke Vickers. A little monument there to them. Now I'll tell you a little bit of the story regarding O.C. Kidd, Oliver C. Kidd, and this is his grave. Now this is a newer one here, pretty old looking, but that may be one based on redone, but the original grave is here and it's been vandalized, which is very sad. At some point it was torn down. Now the story with Oliver is he, again, raises his family here, establishes himself, and then the war breaks out, the Civil War breaks out, and 3 of his sons enlist to defend the South, as most Southerners would have done. A couple of his sons are stationed in Virginia, at least their troops are up there. Oliver, at one point, 1862, goes up there to take them shoes and other clothing, coats, that type thing. While he's up there, James, which is a direct descendant of mine, is killed. He's wounded, and as he's trying to recover from the wounds, his father's there, but he ends up dying from that, and he's buried there in Virginia at the battlefield site. We don't know what the grave is, but he's buried there. So he comes back down. 2 of his other sons end up dying too in the war, which is so tragic. He comes back, then his wife dies. So here's the man, he's losing his family, and then the city of Atlanta is also burned not far from here. And it's a possibility that they could still see the smoke rising because Sherman had marched through Atlanta, had burned it, then he's going to Columbia on his famous march to the sea, burning everything he comes across. And so there's a letter that Oliver writes, and he says, there's nothing left in this county except orphans and widows. And in great despair, but somehow by the grace of God, he gets a hold of himself. He said, look, my life's not over. He's in his 60s. He remarries and has, I believe it's 5 more children as he rises up, and he lives to his I think he was 86 years, in 1895, I think he passes away. And so it's a powerful story of the strength to rise up. One added little story is that my ancestor James, before the Civil War, of course, as a young man, and this would have been the 1850s, right before the Civil War breaks out, the late 1850s, he impregnates the housekeeper that was working for the family. And when they confront him and she says he's the father, he denies it, and he turns and he marries another woman. And in denial of this, although as time passes, everyone knows that he's the father, and Oliver is going to help raise this young man as part of the family. But eventually, he and his mother moved out west, I think it's into Texas, and established himself there, and then ultimately in Oklahoma, where his granddaughter, I think, is going to be born, or mother, or it's his daughter, which is my mother's granddaughter. Anyway, lots of complexity, lots of mess, and yet something about the human spirit. We're able to rise up and keep going on with our lives, even though when there's much tragedy. So a little bit of history there. You know I love history. Anyway, God bless.
You breathed on me and made my life a richer